Hi, my name is Sam, and I'm a dungeon master. Today I'm going to talk about guest appearances and quick character creation. So I started running D&D a little over a year ago, and the majority of our sessions so far have included guest players rather than just the core group of 5 people that we have. Um, and the reason I wanted to do this was because we had 5 people that were willing to commit to a campaign, and then we had these other people that were interested in D&D, had never played before, but didn't really feel like committing to something that could last like 6 months. And we have to, you got to be there if we're going to have a session. Um, and so right off the bat, I mean, I think we did the first couple sessions, just the core group, but starting at session 3, I started introducing guest players as often as possible. Um, and the way that I've been doing it, because I wanted it to feel cohesive, I introduced NPCs kind of as often as possible. And in the beginning, I would control them. For instance, we started with the starter set, which is the Lost Mine of Phandelver, and it starts with Sildar is one of the NPC characters, and so he became like a follower to the party. And for the first couple sessions, I played him, and then they got to Phandalin, and he basically me playing him. He said that. Hey, if I appreciate everything you've done, thanks for saving me. If you need my help, I'm here for you. And so in session 3, when my friend Tony came, he just took control of Sildar. And since then, I've been introducing NPCs here and there, and I kind of treat it like maybe in World of Warcraft they have that garrison thing, or in Skyrim there's followers that you can get. They're characters in the world that have stories and backgrounds that the party has already had some interaction with. Um, and they're just living in the world. They're living in one of these cities, and the players can go and recruit them if they need to. And then if there's a guest player, the guest player can just come in, and we can bridge that narrative gap really easily, um, which is cool. Um, so that kind of led into the next part, which is I would have these guests come over, and then obviously there's the question of, well, do they need to like roll a character? And that takes a while, especially since none of these people have really played before. That can take like an hour, and delay the game. And it's, I could, maybe start the game with the other group, but I got to be answering questions for this other new player as well. So what I came up with was just, I wanted some sort of quick character creation. These are like disposable characters. These are guests. They're just here for a session or two. It doesn't need to be super in depth. And so in the beginning, I actually just did it on note cards, just how I do like monster cards, just scribble down some stuff. In later sessions, I actually printed out a bunch more character sheets, and I'd have a character sheet for them. And what I would do is I would just grab like the standard attributes for strength and dexterity and intelligence and all that stuff. I just grabbed like the standard numbers that they recommend in the book. I'd write that on the character sheet, and then I could let them distribute how they want. Um, I would set some base numbers. So like for instance, one of the characters that joined, he joined when they were like level 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. And so I gave him like a starting health of 30, which was low. And then what I had them do is, because I wanted them to roll at least a little bit, because I feel like it's fun. It's like fate. So I had them roll a 1d4 and multiply that number by 10. So let's say they had 30 as their base and they rolled a 2. They would now have 50 health as their base. And then I'd have them roll a 1d10, which would be like the filler numbers. So then they'd roll like a 7, and they'd be at 57 health total. And then that would put them in a range where, yes, they could be kind of low. Like had they rolled a base 30, a 10, and a 1, they'd be at 41 health. And the rest of the players were at like, I think like 50 to 80 or 60 to 80 or something. So obviously that guest character would have really low health compared to everyone else. But in terms of averages, I think when we did this, the character who rolled, he ended up just kind of in the middle, and it worked out really well. There may be a better way to do it. Maybe the base should be, you could set the base as like in the middle, exactly in the middle, and they just roll a 1d10, and they just get that little bit of a little bit of a roll. But I kind of wanted it to be a little bit more impactful. And then the same thing for AC. I just set a base of 10. Gave them, I think at the time I gave them a 1d6. So obviously the lowest they could get is an 11. Highest was a 16. That seemed like a pretty good range. If you don't want, like if 16 seems a little high for a guest character he's not, he or she's not really the true hero of the story. So maybe they shouldn't be like super overly powerful. You could just do a 1d4 and 14 AC would be the highest. And that seems pretty good. And then after that, I just let them. I gave them the player's handbook and said, choose some just basic weapons and armor, from these tables, whatever you want. Distribute your ability scores. I gave them a proficiency bonus and an initiative of +2. I felt like that was pretty standard. Passive perception 13, same deal. Had them choose some saving throws and some skills, and it just went it sounds like a lot, but it actually went really fast. I mean, we were able to just like set up a character quick in like 15-20 minutes, while everyone else was still settling in. They were getting their stuff out, their books, their dice, they were chatting, catching up, all that sort of stuff. We were able to just quick roll a character super fast. And again, it doesn't really matter, they're guest characters. Most of my guest characters have died, so it's good that they didn't waste a lot of time. Yeah, so that was kind of a nice little addition to bring guest characters in, get them right into the game, let them have some fun. And then the last step, I guess, was to ask a little bit of role playing. But I didn't want that also to be like, if these are people that have never played before, I didn't want to like inundate them with like questions like, why are you here? And how come you're joining the party? And tell me all these things, about your history and things like that. I just asked them, like, just tell me, is there anything about your character we should know? Any unique characteristics or anything about your history that you want to share? Just very simple. Some of them came prepared with like a bunch of stuff. Others, they were like, I don't know. I guess I'll just determine it later or whatever. And that was fine. And then it kind of takes that edge off too. Like they don't feel like they're coming into this and just getting, feel bad because they didn't prepare more or something like that. So yeah, guest characters are an awesome addition to your party. It's allowed me to introduce D&D to like a bunch of new people. I mean, pretty much every guest I had never played D&D before, and they all loved it, which was really cool. It also increased the pool of players that I have now. So we had this core group of 5, but now we actually have a Google Hangout with 13 people in it. That allowed us to create a West Marches kind of splinter group for all the people that just want to play once in a while. We get them together, everyone makes like a new character or like some low-level character, and I have like little mini quests set up for them, and it's kind of like a quest log in a video game where they can just say like, ooh, that one sounds cool, they can pick it, and then we can just do like this one-off session. So that was an awesome kind of inadvertent benefit of having guest characters. And it's also just overall been super fun to bring in new people, new ideas, all sorts of new, like, it's always fun to bring a new person because they're always like, wow, this is totally not what I expected. And usually it just results in a lot more fun and people laughing and new jokes that we hadn't heard before and all that sort of good stuff. And then you get to see like a bunch of different types of characters. Like we've had really loud, boisterous players show up. We've had more shy ones that just kind of tag along and they have a good time, but they're a little bit quieter. We've had some over the top like evil characters where everyone was like, holy shit, like, okay, I guess you're doing that. Okay. We've had like really good characters that are principled and want to do the right thing, and people that have introduced new creative ideas that none of us had really thought about before. And new, strong role players who bring in like depth and intrigue and stuff like that, and then help shape the world. Like people have brought in new ideas, and then I've gone, that's a really good idea. And then in the next session, I kind of worked that into the narrative, worked it into the world. So that's another cool benefit. So that's the episode. Thanks for listening, watching, and stay tuned for future episodes. Thanks. Yeah.